2, 1. Look, we do agree with the closing up. We kind of don't care about military junta or like the political implications of all of this, right? We do believe, or like also, we don't kind of care how kids are going to feel about this. But two things that we do care about, as George pointed out, is A, this is one of the most serious crimes that you can ever do. And you not giving your DNA test is basically enabling the government to the like arc of justice, right? You're basically kind of an accessory to this crime as well. But also, we do believe this is an important information to your decision-making process. It does not mean that you're going to be happy about it, but you need to know it in order to make any other future decisions about you, your identity, and your relationship with your parents. We kind of don't get a lot of attacks on our case coming from CEO. The only attack that we say is, oh, but these parents might be good people, right? And maybe they haven't been accomplices to this crime. If this is true, right? If they hadn't had the knowledge of these kids being stolen, I do believe that very often this is going to be something which is possible for them to prove at a court of law, right? I don't see why this is such a big harm. I mean, this is very often, in a lot of the time, they did have the information, right? Very often, these are the sympathizers of the junta, right? Which means that very often they did have the information about where these kids are coming from, and they knew that there was a lot of like political oppression in their country, and that probably these kids are not coming from Canada, but probably have some ties, and this is some sort of like retaliation against people. So we believe that in a lot of the cases they did have the info, and we need to investigate this, right? But finally, and I want to deal with this because I do think this is a big clash, kind of OGM is they never provide, we need to force people to actually do the DNA test. And as Josh pointed out, there are two occasions in which we force people to do this, right? This is very often, state has a duty to investigate some very serious crimes, even if victims do not want to do this. And this is very often rape in marriage, even if like woman does not want it to be prosecuted. Very often, we do believe it's something that the government needs to do, even if it does not agree. And notice that very often, because we do believe this is so serious crime that attack our like sense of justice, that we need to do, and the government has a duty to do this. So this is very often in these cases, we do forcibly take the DNA from suspects or witnesses, right? Very often we do mandate you to testify, even if maybe you don't want to, but very often we go into your house and read your diary. Very often we go to your house and basically search your whole base and invade your privacy in the most serious way, even if you're not the suspect, but you're a witness and someone who can actually give useful information here, right? Because we acknowledge that by you not cooperating, right, you're basically attacking the our quest for justice, and by doing it, you are a sort of accomplice in this crime as well. You are not a neutral person, and I'm not saying why your feeling of being attacked or like your identity shattered is something that we should prioritize over the quest for justice and giving sense of justice to some people. And I do believe this is something which is far more important. Second thing that George pointed out is very often we have an obligation to give you an information which would dramatically change your decision-making process, right? Because we already kind of see that we don't have a lot of information. Very often, this is going to be very useful or like important information to you. Right? Very often, if the government has the results of like your AIDS test, right? Even if it's positive, and this is going to shatter you, this is an incredibly important information that you need to have, even if you haven't conceded to being tested in the first place, right? And we do believe this is something which is very, very important. On CL's case, they say we don't have the right to instrumentalize you to do this. And I'm kind of asking why. The only explanation that they probably give is that you're going to feel attacked, right? And you're probably not going to like the results of this. Why is your why are your emotions something which should trump the arc of justice? As I have already pointed out, we already in criminal proceedings and in criminal court cases violate your privacy in so many ways, and we push you to do things exactly because we acknowledge that how you feel isn't something that should be taken into account when we're doing criminal proceedings. Second thing to point out is, but look, it's fine if you don't turn in your parents because you might be protecting them from massive stigma, right? If they haven't done anything bad, right? And if they haven't been you're stolen, it's fine, right? They will be able to prove it. But this is very often, if they have done this and you are not partaking, you're basically shielding them from the punishment that they should have, which makes you unaccessory to this, right? You are someone who's shielding an information which would make someone criminally liable and be in fucking court for human trafficking. This is in any other case, if this is any other person and not your son or daughter, right? We would like probably punish you as well, right? And I do believe this is something which is very, very important, right? Blood in like the arc of justice is kind of meaningless, right? This is in a lot of countries, right? Women still have to testify, like, against their husbands, and this is not something which is like a unique legal precedent everywhere, right? Because very often we do acknowledge that even if you don't like it, right, the like quest for justice is something that should trump this, right? I would take now closing.
One of the reasons it is seen as so bad that the junta took away these children is because we think that there's an inherent right to shape your family and to shape your identity. Why are you using the same as the youth?
Hey, if you haven't done this, right, I do believe that it is still possible to have your family, right, and to still be like be united, and to explain to your kid that, look, I just haven't done this. But B, if you have known this, you have taken a right for someone else to shape the family that they have wanted, right? This is so awful, and I'm not sure why this is something that we should prioritize over you taking the same right that you're now claiming from someone else, right? This is so awful. Look, as Georgie pointed out, a lot of their like material about like parents and like blah 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 just is not included in the motion because we're not sure and we don't know if this information is going to be like presentable to parents. But even if so, right, even if you don't have a perfect relationship with your kid right now, you still have the information and you still get closure, right? Because a lot of these parents spend their whole life searching and knowing what happened to their kid, right? I do believe this is a massive impact on our side. And even if you don't buy this, right, as Georgia pointed out, the pure sense of justice these people are going to get is something that is massively important. Second thing to point out, it disrupts who you are, right? As Georgia pointed out, I'm not seeing why this is bad, right? The information that shape your identity and that you care most about are information that disrupts you, right? And we have the obligation to give it to you, even if you don't like it, right? On the opening up, look, I do believe they are able to prove that some accountability is going to happen, but I don't think that I have explained why this is important, why we should force you, right? And as Georgie pointed out, this is something which is terribly, terribly more important than some accountability for junta, right? I don't care. We beg you to propose.
Woo!